Welcome to the wrench. Look, this is Suspension Fork 101, this issue. We're having a quick look at the bit that hangs on the front of the bike. Suspension can be a bit of a dark art when it comes to working on it, and I'm not going to sit here and teach you how to fix every fork yourself right now. It's just not going to happen because every set of forks is different, every model is slightly different. What we are going to look at is some of the basics of forks, give you a peek inside and give you a sense of how they work and how you can do a bit of work to maintain them. So you've got your fork. You've got your stanchions over which slide your sliders, funnily enough, and then there are seals here which stop the crap getting in. There's springs in them, they're the things that make them bounce, and there's damping in them, and that controls how they ride and how that bounce works. That's the basics of a fork. Pretty simple stuff really. You've got a whole bunch of adjustments, air, whatever. First, if you're going to work on them, you either have to get them off the bike or at least look at how to get the sliders and the stanchions separated. So you've got to take the brake off. With these ones, that's actually really easy because I'm running V-brakes with cables. You just do a bit of this action, you get the cable out of there, line that up like that, and there you go. Now I could whip those sliders off and we'd be all good to work on it. You might want to take it off the bike, in which case the older headset makes life incredibly easy. Undo a bolt, undo a couple more bolts, whip it out. Be confident you can put it all back together again before you do that though. And again, if you ever need help with it, the bike shop's there. That's what those guys do. They're experts at this sort of stuff. You go down there and say, oh, I sort of stuffed it up. They'll say, alright, might cost you a little bit, but we'll fix it for you. That's their gig. When you're working on your fork, you need a nice clean area. That's really important because you're going to pull out all sorts of little bits, and especially when you're using a stupid table like this over a stupid deck like that, you know where the little nuts are going. So a nice big clean area, an old t-shirt, beautiful. That's where you're going to put things. If you've got air springs, it's really important to let the air out first. Otherwise you're making yourself a little bottle rocket and you'll shoot half your parts over the roof of the house when you actually go to pull it to bits. And then what you've got to do is separate the tops from the bottoms. Generally, it depends. Some forks, as I said before, have different internals. Find your website that your fork manufacturer runs. There will almost certainly be instructions on that and a breakdown of how to pull the forks apart and how to maintain them. But for the sake of this, we're going to look at fairly simple ones that have a little bolt through here into the push rod which holds the lot together in that regard. So in this case, we're pulling these two bolts apart. Okay, so we've got the bolts out, and in the case of these forks, and as I said before, they're all different, they just slide apart like that quite simply. You've got some spacers, some top-out bumpers here, and as I said before, in here is where your springs are, that's where that does its thing. And this bit here, this is the bit you really want to clean and maintain. This is the bit that gets muddy and crappy. If you look down in there, you can see in those seals, in amongst there is crap and dirt and grime. That's the bit that's going to trash your forks, basically. In the case of these forks, the seals actually pop out, which can be useful because you can whip them out, you can grab your old rag and you can give them a bit of a clean like that. Beautiful clean seals there. Of course, you should clean them a little bit better than that, but just spend a little time on, not too much. These also have a dust ring, which also, you can clean. You can just do that in detergent if yours have got something similar. And then if you look down here, you've got the important bits to lube inside the fork. You can see there, that's the bushing. And there's another one down at about halfway down the tube. And they're the things that this slides on. That's where you slide it, goes over your stanchion, and that's the bit that moves up and down. So that's the bit that's got to be slimy and lubricated and slick. So, again, you give it a bit of a clean with whatever solvent you choose. Make sure it's nice and clean. And grab yourself some specific suspension lube. Don't just use any old grease because they can affect your bushings and they can affect your seals. Go down your shop and weasel out of the guys down there a little suspension lube. Grab a little bit of that and make sure your bushings are really well coated. Of course, I haven't really cleaned these yet. You can see there's all this sort of disgusting crap on there. Make sure they're really well coated. Lube the whole thing up. Lube up the sliders. Lube up anything that might move against anything else. You can never use, lube's cheap really compared to a pair of forks, so slap on a bit of lube and then put them all back together in exactly pretty much the same way you pull them apart. Again, use the instructions that the website of the fork manufacturer will provide to you, or the booklet that you got with them, that sort of thing, and you can't go too wrong. Remember at the end of the day that it is not necessarily rocket science. If you do get stuck, the bike shop guys are certainly happy to help out, especially if you walk in with the fork. It might take a little while, but once you work out how to do your fork, you'll actually get quite quick at it, and a slippery fork is a happy fork.